tell me, what is happening with this taxation? They're saying they want people, informal businesses and farmers, small-scale farmers, to actually pay taxes over the produce they give. I was having a conversation with your friend yesterday, and he was telling me you cannot tax every single item. You cannot tax while the farmers are producing, you tax in the supermarkets. Let's start with this. How can we balance taxation? We have small-scale businesses, we have big businesses, and we want everyone to pay taxes.
Taxation 101. Anybody who has read taxation tells you taxation must be as simple as possible in terms of collection, tax administration, and which involves collection. It must be as simple as possible. It must be frictionless. It must cause as little friction as possible. There must be less reactions, negative reactions. So it must be as near natural as possible. You get it? So that it should just be give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. But if you step beyond a certain line, people begin to question the whole concept of taxes. Another thing about taxation 101, is that you do not match what you pay in taxes with what you receive. People should not say that we cannot pay because we are not seeing what you are doing. But that is very delicate. Don't make them get there again. So what government is doing is failing those principles, the most basic principles in taxation. So the so-called economists who are working with the government, they are experts in economics. They know about taxation. If you violate those principles of frictionless collection of taxes, okay, and also the idea of people not questioning what their taxes are doing, they must not question. It must just be natural that you pay taxes. But if you want to if you push them beyond that, they begin to question the taxes.
Can people say in Mount Kenya, those who are complaining about avocado taxes, can they pay taxes without feeling the pinch? Because they are feeling like we have not been paying for taxes, and if we are paying, we are not seeing what is being done with the monies that we are giving out to government. Can we get to a level where they get to pay their taxes without feeling any?
That's how it should. That's what I'm saying. That should be.
How can we do that?
But before you go there, remember that some of these people. I don't know whether they went to school. I think we have our people who have never gone to school. You could have gone there, but just to get certificates and papers. Many revolutions in the world have been occasioned by taxation in whatever form. Yeah. Even a revolution that swept off, removed serfdom and the landlords in Europe, the American Revolution, no taxation without representation, and all these taxes bring down governments. Even in fact, agitations during colonial rule in many parts of the world were people's reactions to taxation, poll tax, hat tax. So I'm saying, which schools did these people go to? I'm sorry to say that. I'm supposed to be humble, but sometimes I just get annoyed. So now to answer your question, what was your question?
How do we get to tax people?
You follow those simple principles. Don't overtax people, because then in the process of overtaxing, you violate the principle of simplicity. Tax collection must be simple. When you overtax, it can't be simple anymore. When you are chasing avocado farmers, who do you tax? The one who has 3 trees like mine in Luombe, or the one with 100, or the one with 2 acres? You see, it's no longer simple. It's no longer straightforward.
But how do you?
And when you overtax again, it means you are violating the other principle, that you don't make people begin to question what their taxes are doing. Are you getting the point?
Yes.
So these guys, what schools do they go to?
Then I want to ask, how do you give to Caesar what belongs to Caesar while you are discriminatory at the same level? Because there are people who will not pay taxes. You with your 3 trees, we need you to pay taxes.
In fact, when I see courts dismissing certain provisions or employment or things on the basis of the provision of the law, like housing, discriminating, I laugh. What is more discriminating in this country than taxation? It violates every principle in the Constitution of equality and equity. Because in this country we pay VAT. VAT does not discriminate. Another principle of taxation, you must graduate taxation.
Oh.
From each according to their ability. Simple principles. From each according to
their ability.
But VAT takes from you and Mama Mboga and the billionaire without discrimination. Everything you buy, if it has VAT, everybody pays. You and so even if you went to court, and I wish Okiom Tata had this, if you went to court, VAT will be suspended immediately. Because it doesn't discriminate. We all pay irrespective of. So the principle of equity and equality is grossly violated through VAT. Now again, why do we say somebody who earns a salary can only be taxed after, say, 24,000 shillings? The same principle. So when you begin things now like farm produce, where is that base of 24,000?
Oh.
How do you set it? I've told you, how do you set which farmer pays?
Okay.
Sasa ukianza kutafuta tax kila mahali, they are going to look for taxes on bed, on somebody's bed and under the bed. You'll get into problems.
So when you look at the
somebody will wonder what you are doing in his bedroom. Kumbe unatafuta tax. Anafikiri unataka bibi yake. Some of the things you want his wife in his bedroom. You are on the bed, you are checking the drawers everywhere, up to under the bed.
So when we say everyone must pay, we need to look at where is the base.
Yes,
so
there are simple principles you must follow. Equity, equality, from each according to their ability. And we must add to each according to their need, which is what welfare countries do. They tax the rich highly in order to finance and make life possible for those less fortunate in society. So we are violating the two. The first one is from each according to their ability, which means the rich, the high earners will pay more. From each according to their ability. The rich pay more. To each, once you have collected, to each according to their need. The poor should be beneficiaries of the taxes. So we are not doing that in this country. So we are violating every known principle and practice of taxation.
So we go back to your bottom-up approach, the sarcastic bottom-up approach.
What the government will need to do is to stop listening to IMF. Make collection of taxes follow the dictates of taxation principles. Collection of taxes must be simple. They should not make people react to the taxes. As it were now, you are looking for taxes from every corner of somebody's house, that certainly they will come out fighting.
Now, you look at these members of parliament
and begin to ask you, by the way, what are our taxes doing? You see the sad bit, and I had somebody say, friend of mine, you saw me with a friend of mine yesterday. Why you are here yesterday?
Yes.
Let's not mention him. He's called John, but the other name somebody would know. I call him Johanna. He said, you are taxing Kenyans so badly, so totally, very insensitive in the taxation. You are taxing it to give to people to go and eat. You are taxing this money to give to the thieves, to buy watches worth 10 million, 5 million, to buy designer shoes, to buy designer suits. It cannot get worse than that. That you are taxing Kenyans so that so that you finance the lifestyle of the thieves. No, it can't work like that. At the end of the day, it's not sustainable.
We look at these two parliamentarians who voted for this bill. Yes. What have they noticed now in the mountain that they come and say, hatutakubali hiyo now? Actually chasing the
I don't even want to say it's a Mount Kenya thing. It's not a Mount Kenya thing. It's a Kenya leadership problem. Do you know, people are just seeing these ones of taxation, but the other laws, which if they are affected, and they were passed in parliament. Even if you are found selling milk to your neighbor, is an offense in this country. There are even laws about certified seed. Certified seed. That if you are found using seed that's not certified, including your mother using potato vines, sweet potato, cassava, that by law I think is an offense. I'm not very sure, but I think something like that.
Certified seeds.
Even using manure. Oh, at ngombe, letter manure not me is an offense. So it's a question of the sort of leadership we have. We don't have leaders. There is nobody in the parliament to interrogate anything. So many laws have been passed, except that they are not being effected. So when they begin to be effected one by one, like there was a time a few years ago, when people brought out the bylaws of Nairobi, people were shocked. Keeping a cat, doing what? Do you know in Nairobi, even if you want to, if a wall, your wall is your perimeter wall, maybe it was 7 feet high, and it is strong enough for you to add another 2 or stones to make it perhaps 8 or 9 feet.
Yeah.
The sort of regulations you will have to go through so there are so many stupid laws, bylaws that are still in the books here, except that they are not being implemented. So laws on agriculture, and I invite these MPs to just begin looking at the laws that have come up in the recent past about agriculture, that will mean in the near future, when these laws are implemented, it will mean total, the word is
total
removal of the ordinary farmers from farming. It will be an offense even perhaps to keep a cow. You can see farmers in Europe are already fighting those kind of things because they are saying people should begin eating artificial meat. It has a name, plastic laboratory meat.
Yes.
They are saying gas from animals, cows, is destroying the environment. You saw French farmers up in arms. These laws are not just Kenyan, they are global by a few people who want to make life difficult. So that only 1 or 2 global companies will supply seed. I don't want to mention them. In this country, in the next 5 or so years, if you are found planting seed that's not certified, by certified read, it will be coming from those international seed companies.
Most likely genetically
GMO.
modified.
So, Parliament is already useless. I was debating some guys on Citizen TV some time back. And all of a sudden, even those who are against each other, on the side of Azimio, and all of them were now speaking the same language about GMOs being okay.
But where do they get handicapped? Because these guys are learned, lawyers.
Most of them are not learned. Most of them are not learned. Kenyans people have papers. But if you sit with somebody, even with many papers, you just see this a fool. That's number one. Number two, everybody in this country is busy chasing money. Making those of us who don't chase money look fools. It is us who are fools because we don't chase money. I went to somebody's office and I met another MP there. I have another friend of mine. These are Rift Valley people. Herman Manyora, you see, unatupiga piga angalia vile umevaa. I had my shirt, so I just thought in my mind. I even told him, I think you are stupid. We look at the world differently. Oh, you are looking at I told him, you're looking at the world in terms of the shirt I'm putting on. I look at the world in much more different ways than you do. You are looking at the world in using cheap lenses of which shirt I'm putting on. So, one, it is not true that people are educated. It is true that people have papers, including stolen ones. Is that right?
Yes.
It doesn't measure. There is not much correspondence between the paper people have and their level upstairs. Number two, even assuming, because some of them have gone to school and have been good, they have been overwhelmed by the need for money. We have made money everything. And by the way, it's not a global problem. This is almost a uniquely Kenyan problem. There are very few countries in the world where money means everything. And where we define ourselves using very cheap parameters like those of shirts. There are many countries here, even in Africa, here, you cannot distinguish people in the streets because of the way they are dressed. No. People just dress the same. In this country, people spend huge amounts of money. It's a national problem that people spend billions every year buying plastic clothes from Turkey and China and the rest in the name of fashion. In other countries, you cannot tell a rich person from a poor person by merely seeing the way they are dressed. Women just put on simple cotton dresses. People just do simple hairstyles. Women just put on normal shoes, sandals and everything else. And so this country, we have elevated money to points where it turns even an intelligent man into a slave.
Then I want to know
So
what...
then Parliament cannot do its work because MPs are busy chasing money, deals.
Are we then experimenting with people, how they will react post-legislation? Because you pass this thing, you go to the people, you're actually there with KRA, but once you feel the temperature going high, then you go against KRA. Is this what we are working on?
They think people are foolish.
Balancing and experimenting.
They will soon know people are not foolish. What we are doing in this country, and I'm really sorry, I'm very sorry about it. What we are doing in this country, we are pushing people into a revolution. There have been delays. Like when this government came up with a lot of excesses, at the time the heat was so high, there was a false hope that slowed the move towards a revolution. Because after Ruto came into power, it became clear that life was going to be very difficult. And indeed life became so difficult. People were faced with taxation they had never imagined. And the cost of living, many things more or less like doubled. The cost of the dollar, for example, the exchange rate, moved from around 125 to around 140, 150. Fuel moved from whatever it was to over 200 shillings. From 150, things just went up. People are so angry. But the move towards a revolution was curtailed by a false hope that was presented to the people by Raila through those demonstrations. So those demonstrations did one thing to slow the tempo. They moved towards a revolution because people thought they were going to yield something, and people dropped their guards, dropped their agitation. So in future, the people are becoming wiser and wiser. They may not place a lot of premium on what they hear from people like Raila. And that is a very dangerous stage. And I've told even Raila about it, and I've talked about it. That when people get to a point where they don't even want to hear what you are telling them, it means they are now going to act on their own. And when people get to a point like Central African Republic, and I've given these examples, like Congo, what have you, where people are acting without leadership. Do you know why it has been very difficult to sort out the mess in Central Africa? Central African Republic, DRC Congo. Do you know why? It is a leaderless people's movement and struggles and fights. You have militia controlling different sectors and different regions. Mining sector has its own militia, regions have their own militia. They don't listen to anybody.
So before you have a sit down with all of them,
you can't. How do you have a sit down with everybody?
You have to transfer.
If you are driving from me, I'm going to Luombe. The first militia I will get is Naivasha. Then the next one will be somewhere. Then Kericho, I get another one. By the time I enter Kisumu area, after Kericho, I'm getting the other militia. By the time I get home, if you are carrying anything in your car, you have taken everything. Some of them just want food you have carried, like in Central African Republic.
Then you say people are becoming wiser. And of course, we all say that wajinga waliisha Kenya.
Yes.
But there are political implications, because you listen to Kioni who says UDA will not climb on Kenya as they did last time. Are there political implications?
It's also not sure. It's also not true. What is UDA? UDA and Mount Kenya. When I say this thing, people didn't understand. You know, some of these MPs were drunk on UDA poison. And it was yellow fever. Mount Kenya is not going to be defined by UDA or by Jubilee. Mount Kenya is going to be defined by what makes the people feel their survival is threatened.
Okay.
Once the survival of the people of Mount Kenya is threatened, political survival, economic survival, economic obvious, social survival, alcoholism, drugs are killing, alcohol is finishing generations in Central Africa. That is a really threat to the people of Central Mount Kenya region. Economic survival, because the policies of this government, some of them, they are universal, but they hit there more, because those are the most economically active people. So they are hit more than, that's why they rejected Uhuru, because they felt the pinch more than the rest of this country. And then there's the political survival that I've talked about. If this deal between Raila and the Ruto makes Ruto think he can ignore Rigathi Gachagua, if Ruto thinks because he has Raila and the Luos and the people of Western Coast of Mudavadi, the people of Mount Kenya mean nothing to him. The people of Mount Kenya now will find their survival threatened. So there's the political survival. If Ruto ignores them and Rigathi Gachagua and even picks somebody else for running mate because he has Raila and Mudavadi. If the economic policies of this country continue to burden the people of Mount Kenya, who feel it more than any other person, their survival will be threatened. If nothing is done about alcohol, if they approach alcohol in the cheap way they have been doing, in the way, for example, I warn this government, you are wasting your time telling us you'll bandits. That approach is wrong. You cannot approach banditry using guns. As the people of Europe learned, guns are useless against immigrants. Because you have a gun on the, you put barbed wire, you have a gun, then a small kid is coming. You shoot that small kid. Immigration in Europe. So they learned the guns are not used. So I was telling Kenyans, guns alone will not solve banditry. I'm telling Rigathi Gachagua and the rest of these people, the approaches you are having against alcoholism in Mount Kenya will not work. You need to have much more serious engagement and interactions and conversations with experts from different sectors. Then you find a holistic way of dealing with alcohol. So to summarize, the people of Mount Kenya, it is not about UDA. Neither will UDA be replaced by Jubilee the way Kioni thinks. No. The people of Mount Kenya first will be united if you threaten them politically through this Raila deal. They'll be united. And that's not about UDA. It's not about Jubilee. They'll just be united. And if there's a leader, they will look for the leader closest to a king they can use. That time, those who say Rigathi Gachagua is not good will forget all that. They will rally around him. If he's the one, they'll rally around. You get it? Yeah. Or whatever it will be. But they will be united, not in Jubilee, around survival. Because you want to finish them politically by isolating them because you have Raila. And the government is doing nothing to ease the cost of living and the cost of doing business. And Mount Kenya feels it the most. And then the token approach to solving alcoholism, which is a threat to the people of Mount Kenya. Those three will have the impact of uniting the people of Mount Kenya.
But you see, Gachagua...
Not by chasing UDA, not by bringing Jubilee or anything else. No!
Gachagua is on the forefront, fighting alcoholism and also talking about this taxation. He actually said they will look for a way to ease the...
Oh, he said that?
He said that they will look for a way, will sit down with the president, see how they can ease the burden for the people of Mount Kenya.
He has
so
no
he's trying his level best to stay as a leader.
He has no option. And some of these things provide opportunities for people. You know, if Rigathi Gachagua comes out at some point, whether post-2027 or otherwise, to stand with his people on matters that affect his people, then that will propel him into the automatic kingpin of Mount Kenya. But it is a serious balancing act. How do you do that and still remain friends with Ruto and still remain his deputy president?
Difficult conversation that he needs to have. He needs to look for people like you, obviously, to advise him at a small fee.
No, I'm free. I don't like money.